Hey everybody, Lily here again with the next Warrior Cat book review as it's come out. I actually finished this book super fast. It's the next book in the Broken Cord series, Darkness Within. I finished in like 3 days, no joke. Um, so I decided I'm going to go forward, even though I'm sure there are some people who haven't finished it yet, and give my thoughts and predictions. Is going to be less of an analysis so much as it's going to be me being nitpicky and also explaining some things I really liked about this book. It's hard to analyze a whole arc when it's being written, so that video would probably come out after this whole arc is finished, which I guess would be next year, which is kind of like, oh, to think about. Anyway, I will say that I can't really give a no spoiler part to this. So if you have not read Darkness Within, the fourth book of the Broken Code arc, and you don't want spoilers, then don't listen, because it basically opens with a spoiler. There's basically nothing I can say that isn't a spoiler. So just be aware of that, because I am going to start right now, and I've got a lot to say. Okay, everyone who doesn't want spoilers has left, hopefully, unless you like spoilers. In that case, I'll continue. It's Ashfur! Yeah, that wasn't really that much of a surprise. Pretty much from the first book, that was pretty clear. However, I think that was, in my opinion, even though this reveal probably upset some people, I've seen a lot of people not like the thought that it's Ashfur, and now the fact that it is Ashfur. But you know what, guys? Let's face it. That was some really good foreshadowing, like the ash fluttering and landing on Shadowsight. Like, I didn't want to confirm for sure until I knew, but I was pretty sure it was Ashfur. Like those in book 1, I think it was, Shadowsight had that happen to him. So like really good. I feel like this arc has it's the best arc since the first arc, I think, in my opinion. It's just so good. There's not one dull chapter, not one character I don't enjoy reading about. And the foreshadowing that led up to this was amazing. I feel like the bits and pieces that keep getting revealed are revealed right when they need to be, leaving on nice cliffhangers, even if they're frustrating at this point. But so let's break this apart. So yeah, Ashfur, and that was so interesting. One thing I've been enjoying throughout this whole series is it used to drive me nuts that all the clans would act like suspicious of each other when they're constantly helping each other. And I'm glad to see they're abandoning that. Like, the clans just, they live in their own groups with their own leaders and stuff, but they really act like one now. Like, they really have accepted that. Like, they, you know, they stay in each other's camps when they need to, and it's fine. You know, they have other warriors watch the prisoner, and it's not treated like all the other cats are suspicious of those cats. They're just worried about the villain, which feels real, and like they're actually working as a team. Amazing. I love it. I want more of this. Please let this continue throughout this arc, because it's awesome. It feels like there's no more petty drama. It feels like real drama. Like, through the whole book, it feels like I'm on pins and needles. It feels, this book felt a lot like The Silent Thaw to me, in terms of, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen? And I really, it was really good. I really liked it. Also, I did want to make just one little comment about this arc, because I feel like it needs to be said now. Honestly, can we all just agree that these titles for this arc are just spectacular? Like, I sometimes feel like Warriors titles for each individual book are kind of nonsense. Like, they're just meant to be dramatic. Like, take Raging Storm, for example. I get there was a storm, but it really is just to hype the drama of the book. Like, all of the titles for every book in this series, and yeah, I'll get more into Darkness Within in a minute, but all the titles for this arc have been exceptionally well labeled. Like just so good. Like Lost Stars is just perfect, and the Silent Thaw was so just beautiful. Honestly, like that's one of my favorite titles. Probably right after Fading Echoes. I think that one was really good, and it actually fit the book. But Silent Thaw, Veil of Shadows was really good, and then Darkness Within, just oh yeah, like they're just so good. And even A Place in No Stars, I think is still a good title. It's probably the weakest title in my opinion, but it's still good. It still gets the point across that we're in a dark, edgy type of arc, which I appreciate because I feel like the authors are doing things with this that they may not have done last arc, just to keep characters from being like they used to keep characters from doing things to stop them from looking bad or things like that, and they're not doing that. Like, to me, Root Spring I think was the most interesting character in this book. Sorry. I have a lot more to say on Root Spring. I should give him a character corner, but honestly, I'm just so proud of that boy. I feel like he has probably had the best character arc since Jayfeather, because I feel very specifically I can just feel his growing up as you read it, and it's so good. Like, Root Spring's arc, I'm so interested to see how it finishes, because it's just been so good so far. Like, he went from being this little nervous and angry little kid to now he's just so good. He's leading his own group, and I love it. And being a leader and taking action, and he's not scared to admit that his powers, and like he is a little scared, but he does it anyway, and he's such a good boy. I'm really happy with how he's come along in his character. He's just so good. And Shadowsight too. Shadowsight's probably the character I can relate to the most. I feel bad for him in a lot of respects. But I really love where he went this book, because I felt like Bristlefrost and Shadowsight almost flip-flopped in this book. Bristlefrost to me was just like, she was there and she's cool. I like her, okay, but Shadowsight really had that manipulative edge from Ashfur, because he's taking care of him throughout this book. And just the whole time Ashfur's just manipulating him like he was Bristlefrost, and it's just so good to read. I love characters getting manipulated by the villain, and especially too because Shadowsight's so concerned that they won't get Bramblestar back, and he's going to be able to murder her his whole life and never be a medicine cat. And it's just so interesting to see him struggle with that. Like, he can't even come to terms with that they could forgive him, or he could move on or something, but it's just so good to see him manipulated. And there's good season to come. I'll talk about more of that in a minute. But oh man, it's just so good. One thing I really liked, I guess I should say some of the things I didn't like. I feel like the books are straying away from the main point of the first book, which is like the Codebreaker agenda. And I'm not sure if I dislike this or like this, because I love this book so much, and I like where the arc is going so much, I almost don't care. Except that the arc is called The Broken Code. So I feel like some aspect of it should have been presented a little. Somewhat. I feel like it's been dropped completely, and like, cats were exiled for it and stuff, and I just wanted them to maybe still have problems with that, or maybe some cats still think it should be a harsh code, or I feel like it's been dropped almost. a little bit, and that disappointed me, because I'd still love to see it as another layer of drama to this, but honestly, things are so great already. I can forgive that. The pacing of the book was a bit slow. Some things were repeated, but honestly, I feel like this is mostly from Squirrel Flight, who is driving me a little nuts at this point. Except at the end of the book itself. Squirrel Flight's driving me up a wall, honey. He's honey, he's abusive. Just let him go. He's a bad leader. Just let him go. But you know, Squirrel Flight and Mothwing in this book irritated me. Mothwing and Squirrel Flight were not out of character. They just bothered me as characters. I just wish Squirrel Flight would take action. And, you know, I understand why she's not. I understand it's hard. But at the same time, she's kind of driving me a little bit up a wall with it. And Mothwing, Mothwing, I want to kick across the Shadow Clan camp so hard. Because how dare you say those things about my poor little baby Shadowsight. He is a better medicine cat than you think, sweetheart. And he is trying his hardest to be a good boy. It is not his fault. You don't know. And it just drives me nuts. And her insistence that they can be without StarClan, it's like, yes, that's probably true. But could you not try to rub it in their faces when they're scared? Mothwing. Seriously. And I like Mothwing, don't get me wrong. I'm just frustrated with her in the moment. I really liked her novella. I like Mothwing. Just by the way. And if you like Mothwing and you agree with her, that's fine. I'm just venting my frustration. Anyway, those are about the only things that irritated me with this book. Very minor. I can forgive all of them. I think this book is up on my top list of books. And it's a really good book in this arc. So far, I really like it. I really love how Tree and Rootspring are interacting, and how Rootspring's come to terms with his father, and how it's just Tree is a pumpkin. He really is. And I love the little I really think the sisters are an interesting group in the clans. And I'm interested in their culture. I could use a whole novella, not from Tree, we had Tree's perspective from the sisters a little bit anyway in his novella, not a lot, because he leaves because he's a Tom, but I could use another novella of maybe Moonlight or some cat like that, because I really think, or maybe even Sunrise would be cool. I really love how the sisters operate. I think they're an interesting group of cats, and I really like that they weave them in, and they're good cats, and they're here to help, and I really appreciate it, because it feels kind of like a first arc plot point to me, where the clans are begrudgingly fine, we have to accept their help. We don't like it, but yet we're gonna make this work, and we're gonna work together, and I like that. I really, I think it's an interesting thing to add, because now I'm interested to see what the sisters continue to do, and will they hang around? What's the sisters group gonna look like moving forward? I'm interested in seeing that. I love the little journey. If you can't tell by my art piece here, but if you can't tell, I really love the little journey with the two SkyClan brothers, and then the Bristlefrost and Spotfur. They're related too, but I think Spotfur's Briss's aunt, Bristlefrost's aunt. But basically, I really like that. I was scared that this arc would have a journey book, and I was like, no, not a journey. But then I was scared. What I was scared of is I would be fine if Tree went along, because that would have been funny. That would have just been fun. I was scared that someone like Lion Blaze was going to end up on the journey. And I did not want that, because I feel like the problem with most traveling books isn't the fact that it's a traveling book, it's who went traveling. In a lot of cases, and how fast the traveling went. Like, this traveling book was quick. Like, this, like, and it wasn't, like, there, like, I hate to call it a traveling book, because it was such a short part of the book. But it was, honestly, maybe my favorite part, except for the end. I guess it wasn't, it was my second favorite part, other than the end, of the book itself. Because it's the kids, the young cats, going on a journey to, you know what I mean, to learn, kind of, like they kind of go on a little bit of an inner journey, as well as a journey to go find the sisters. And I love how they interact with each other, which this arc has done so good at character interactions and giving characters personalities, and actually giving minor characters personalities. Like Spotfur, thank goodness, is a character. I never thought she would be a character, but I am more than excited. Like, I am ecstatic about her getting a novella, because she is just so interesting. I love it. And I don't feel like this is something we would have had before. Like, they tried to do this with Cherryfall, and it did not work, and it works with Spotfur. It's working right now with her. And I'm honestly, I called it. Last time, Veil of Shadows, when I read that book, I was like, what if Spotfur was pregnant? And I kind of entertained the thought, and I was like, things are tough. I don't know that they would do that. But now that it's canon that she is pregnant, I'm like, her kits, I'm predicting right now, will be the protagonists of the next arc if they make one. You just watch. Their Firestar's canon, on top of the fact that they have an interesting destiny, and the sisters even say that they are special. I feel like something's up with that, but we'll see. That's just my, like, wild guess. But I am so interested in all these cats, and I love that they sent these young cats, because it's like sending, you know, like, they're kind of like teenagers. Like, Spotfur is more of an adult. Or I guess they're more like all young adults, but Spotfur would be the oldest. But I love that they all work as a team in a group, but you can see leadership skills starting to blossom in Root Spring, and peacemaking skills and decisiveness. I love it, because he's growing so much. I'm so proud of him. It's so good. And like, all the characters interact. Like, Nina Claw is, I loved how she was, you know, she's a bit sour, and I love it. She kind of reminds me of Needletail a bit, but less rebellious, so I can handle it. And, you know, Spotfur was mostly depressed, poor girl. I get it. But it was still good to have a character like that, especially because I was like, partway into the journey, I was like, yep, she is gonna have kits. But in Bristlefrost and Root Spring interact great, and I love that they gave these cats a journey. And all the cats, too, like, sometimes when they give Journey Cats books, the characters never interact after, the characters never mean anything after, and it's just kind of like, why did you send them on a journey? This book, they sent cats that have already been important on a journey, and you can tell they're going to continue to be important. Two of them are protagonists, and one of them is the protagonist's sister, and the other one is ending up being a major character in this arc, and is related to the main character as well. So it really works in the story's favor, because I care about where they're going and what they've learned. And I also think this is like the first book in the main arc where we actually had some kind of animal attack. Like, we've had, like, there were a couple dog encounters and I think a hawk, but you know, like, that's something that hasn't happened in all the books, so I was actually fine with it, which is nice. There have been, like Sparkpelt had that close encounter. I think, was that Silent Thaw or Veil of Shadows? I want to say that was Silent Thaw, but I can't remember exactly. I know it was one of the two, but but that wasn't on screen. So this is like the first on screen ones, which has been also a great thing about this arc. There's been no like little side tangents about having to take care of badger dens or fox cubs, so it's great. I love it so much. And then the sisters, I love how Sunrise basically just right away is like, look at my little nephew, I'm gonna teach him everything he needs to know, and I'm here for it. I love Sunrise being this awesome aunt to Root Spring. It's just so nice to see them interact and see Sunrise become even more of a character. And I love how the sisters, yes, they were like a little bit like, hey, the clans drove us away, we don't know if we want to help, but they were like, you know what? It's, we'll help. Like, they're good. They are good girls. I love them. You can judge me all you want, and yes, it might be bad that they send their Toms away, but they are good, sweethearts who, they deserve more love. I really think they do. Hey, that's their culture. The clans do crazy stuff too. Come on, like, we can accept that this is just how they do things. And they're sweethearts, and obviously they do like Toms, like, they care about them. Like, Sunrise just right away, she's like, I'm gonna help him, come on, Root Spring, let me teach you this. Like, she's really good. She's kind of like a mentor for Root Spring in learning things that he needs to know going forward, that I think will be important. Like we've known this whole time since like the end of book 1, Lost Stars, that Root Spring can talk to ghosts, which is an awesomely cool power. I really love, we knew Tree could do it, and then we got a novella for Tree, but I love seeing it on a main character and how he's grown to appreciate and feel comfort in his power, which is also another aspect of his growth I've really appreciated. But now in this book, there's something like, I feel like in books past, like Jay Feather didn't have to learn much with his power, and Lion Blaze didn't too much, or Dovewing, like, they were just born with all their powers intact, and that was that. But like, Root Springs had to be in situations where, yes, he was sort of born with the power, but then he had to kind of learn it and cultivate it, like, and to be better at it, and he had to learn different aspects of it. It's something he's grown stronger in, not necessarily something he was just, like, he obviously was born with the talent, but he's had to grow in that talent, which is so interesting. And even now, like, we learn in this book, he can speak to the earth too. Like, that's just so cool. I don't even know if Tree can do that. I don't think Tree ever did learn that. And yeah, I'm realizing, I'm sorry, I have some spoilers in here for Tree's roots as well. But like, Tree, I don't think ever learned to do that. So seeing Root Spring do that is so interesting. And I loved seeing through his perspective how it works. And I'm really interested to see going forward if that's helpful for anything. Like how does the earth power work? Can he, like, move the roots off of covering the StarClan hole? Is that possible? Could he use it to find out what's blocking StarClan? Like, I'm interested now. I'm like, whoa, what could he do? Theoretically, could he locate things? Like, does the ghost power combine with the earth power? Like, can he locate things that are in the spirit world or something and guide Shadow Sight? I'm interested now. Like, I'm really intrigued. I want to know how far they can push this. And I feel like this is something they wouldn't have done before. Like, I was worried they were going to be like, oh, he can't do it. But I was so thrilled when he actually could learn to do it. And he now has basically 2 powers. And I'm like, yes, this is something so interesting. I love it. I was really, really into that. And now it's like making my brain swirl, like, what if they use that, And I don't know if they, like, the next book, they may forget about this. I don't know. But I have no idea what they'll do next book. But it just leads to, if they are writing these books like I feel like they are, where they're actually doing really good foreshadowing, really good character development, taking risks, remembering events, and moving forward, I really feel like this might go somewhere, more than I ever have before thought that. Oh, the other thing I really did like about this book too was I didn't like how fast, like, we didn't get a real good vigil or like send off for the cats that died in that battle kind of needlessly with the imposter. I like that they did that. Like, they wrapped up the whole thing with like with the dead cats from that battle. And I also love the little conversation with I think it's Hairlight and Icewing, the two River Clan exiles that never went back. I really love that little chat because it felt like it cleared something up that I actually didn't even realize I wanted cleared up, which was great. I love that. I appreciated that moment. It didn't actually need to be there, any of that vigil stuff, which is going back in time. I get it. I'm sorry, I forgot about it. But it's just so good that they did add it because it made me go, oh, I'm so glad they remembered. You know, I appreciated that a lot. But they didn't even need it in there. But I loved it all the same. Anyway, moving forward, I guess my last little bit was like the last bit at the end. I mean, through this book, the only, like, one of the main things, I think my only real main thing is like, just kill him. Someone kill him. And then Lion Blaze attacks him. I'm like, yes, Lion Blaze, just kill him. For once in my life, I'm actually like, yes, Lion Blaze, just go ahead and do it. Go ahead and kill that cat, Lion Blaze. Instead of like, no, Lion Blaze, calm down. No, I was like the opposite for a change. I kind of wish Lion Blaze had killed him. But at the same time, I also thought it was neat to see Ashford kind of sleeping. And I'm like, uh-oh. And then the sister ceremony and Ashford shows up. I'm like, oh no. And, you know, like, to know Ashford's still lurking around and doing things outside of Bramblestar is an interesting concept. And I'm interested to see what he's doing to the dead cats at this point. Because I'm not even fully sure what it is. Like, I'm so interested. And that's what I love about these books. They're releasing the reveals slowly enough that I'm interested for the next book instead of, oh, I learned it all in this book. I don't really, why am I going to read the next book? It's nice. It's really good. But basically, all that goes down, like the sister ceremony, the sisters are freaked out, you know, all these cats are angry, which is weird. And then they have this off comment that, like, if there's a certain kind of energy and the spirits are that angry, like, they can materialize. And then I just kind of got like this Omen of the Stars sort of feel, but even more sinister, which I didn't even know was possible. And I'm like, oh no, that's going to come back later if they remember it. Which is like, I wonder if that's Ashford's plan entirely. I have no idea. But I wonder. And then that all happens, and then they do decide to kill Bramblestar, and I love the scene. Like, how come every scene with, like, possessed Bramblestar and Shadowside is just golden? Like, why is that the case? Like, it's just so good. Like, this whole time Shadowside's been manipulated, and it's wonderful to see because I loved it with Bristlefrost, and I love seeing it happen to Shadowside. I feel so bad for him, but yet I love it because it feels so real. And, you know, I can feel his concerns and his worries, and I love it. But I really love that scene because it raises a lot of questions in my mind. Where Ashford is letting Firesight take hold of Bramblestar, and I'm like, that's weird. Did he really let Firesight in? Is Firesight actually with Ashford? Because I take it for them to take hold, they have to be nearby. At least that's how I took it. And it seems odd to me. So either one thing's going on. Either Ashford can exactly copy and manipulate into these different forms, or he had Firesight hanging out nearby, which begs the question, what's Firesight aligned with? And is he really suffering, or was he hanging out? I'm really confused. I'm really interested and to see where that goes. And then Bramblestar shows up, and I'm like, I I really would be surprised because that did not sound like a Bramble Star scared about himself. Either this Bramble Star did show up and he is being manipulated, like Ashfur said in Veil of Shadows that he has the power to manipulate spirits or whatever. So either that's going on, or he was pretending to be Bramble Star, or is it possible even Bramble Star is not a good guy? I don't know. I have a feeling, if anything, he'd be being like manipulated, or something. And then I don't understand why, what about Fireside? It's really weird. And then Shadowsight, I'm like, no, baby. But his chapter ends in this book with him basically running up to the leaders and being like, hey, and then, of course, because he's a nervous boy, forgetting that when you're trying to help, if you're trying to help the prisoner escape, don't look at him, for Pete's sake. Because Lion Blaze caught on, and now everyone knows Shadowsight was not only killed Bramble Star, but he's also working with Ashfur, which is such a horrifying note for him to be left on. Oh, like, yikes. Oof. I can't wait to see where that goes in the next book. Because poor boy. And then Bristlefrost's book in this, like, her last chapter isn't much. I think Bristlefrost was just in here because she's a main character, not because she actually had something interesting to say. Too much. Maybe a little bit about Spotfur, but otherwise not too much. I think she could still do some things going forward. But that's about it. But then Rootspring ends up at the moon pool he's a sweet boy, he's just trying to go comfort Squirrelflight, but then he ends up seeing Ashfur attack Squirrelflight and drag her into the moon pool, which also confused me, because hear me out here. Is it possible that when Ashfur was fighting Squirrelflight, he killed her? And because they are both dead, they can both go through the portal? Because Rootspring was there, he tried to help her, but he couldn't get through the Moonpool portal, which doesn't seem... Because that's when I had a question. I was like, well, why can't Rootspring find it? Why has No Cat found it? And then it made me think, uh-oh, what if Squirrelflight just died? And he drug her through like that? Because that might be his last hope. Ashfur's, because if Ashfur can't have her and him alive, he has to borrow a body, but he's basically alive at that point. He has a type of physical form. If he can't have her alive, then the next logical thing would be that he would try to have her dead. And if she's also dead and a ghost, he can manipulate ghosts. Supposedly, which is horrifying as well. So I don't know what happens after that. We're gonna have to see, but it does imply some horrifying things to think about. And some interesting things I'm excited to see get unraveled. Plus, I'm also a little bit worried about Rootspring because he is a SkyClan cat who just witnessed the last leader of ThunderClan disappear into a hole. Into a puddle, and I hope he's okay. We'll have to see. Stay tuned. I have no idea if Rootspring, I don't know if they'll blame him for that. I doubt it at this point because the clan seems so close, but maybe. I have no idea. I'm a little concerned about him. I think they would take him seriously, but yeah, ThunderClan is left completely leaderless. Okay, fine. Some people might be like, but they have Lion Blaze. But Lion Blaze was very... Lion Blaze is holding on to that deputy ship by a thread, let alone a leadership. Oh, boy. And this is where I wonder if Bristlefrost is going to have her arc come up, because she has 10,000 times more leadership fibers in her body than Lion Blaze does. So... I wonder if she's going to have to, in a way, take charge. Even if it's subtle, even if it's over time, even if it's, guys, I'll handle this. I have a feeling is going to happen there, and that's where I wonder about the end of the arc. Maybe she ends up being the leader of ThunderClan at the end of the arc. I don't know. With an actual star title. I have no clue about that. But I do wonder if that's where Bristlefrost might get a more interesting perspective. Yeah, I just imagine now Greystripe wandering back in, like, spoiler for Greystripe's Vow 2, but like once he comes back from all he's done, he's gonna like come into ThunderClan and be like, oh my goodness, what happened? Everyone's gone. Oh, Squirrel Flight's gone. What happened? The prisoner's gone. What in the world? It's gonna be interesting. But yeah, this book just ends on just such an interesting, and like I am just like, oh my goodness. Like the ending was spectacular. Probably the best ending yet, because the ending of Veil of Shadows was just kind of like, I feel like it's gonna be Ashfur. I get you're gonna make me wait like 8 months or 6 months or something like that to know, but come on, And the other books have had, good cliffhangers, which is also something good to add in this arc, I think. Like, this is the best cliffhanger since probably Lost Stars, I think. Like, Lost Stars had a pretty good cliffhanger. But even then, it wasn't that much of a cliffhanger. But, like, this one is a real, like, oh my goodness, this could go a million directions. I have no idea what this is going to do. And I'm here for it. I'm really excited. Anyway, I guess that mostly wrapped up my thoughts. I know this wasn't so much analysis as more like predictions and my thoughts on the book. Oh, I did have one more thing to say. The prologue was from StarClan, and I have mixed feelings about it. And the only reason I have mixed feelings is because in my head I've convinced myself of something. I'm convinced, the prologue is from Leafpool's perspective in StarClan. And it was cool to see that StarClan is just as confused as the Clan Cats. And yes, you don't find out anything more from them than you already know. I just kind of wish they had stayed out of it, because it would have kept that kind of like intrigue. I want to say, that might not be the right word, but like it would have kept this mystery going on about StarClan just a little bit longer, because I liked it better that way, where we actually didn't know what was going on with StarClan at all. Like, we already know Roots are covering the portal, so it's like I guess you don't learn anything new. But one thing I tried to convince myself of is, what if this is StarClan from a little bit further back in the series, like StarClan during or before Lost Stars, perhaps. And because the only reason I think that is because Hairstar supposedly, and I still am not convinced at this point, but I'll go with it, sure. Hairstar died and went to StarClan, but he says when he got to StarClan that there was just darkness or whatever and wailing, and he didn't see any cats. But in this prologue, the cats seem fine, just confused and worried about fading. But when Hairstar dies in the last book, Veil of Shadows, he sees faded cats, and you know what I mean? So I'm like, that does not seem consistent, and it could just be that it is an inconsistency. But I really don't know that this is the StarClan at the start of Darkness Within, more as it's maybe a StarClan from back a bit. And that would keep all that mystery still intact for me. So that's my theory, because I refuse to believe anything else. That's my theory, as well as, I think, a good explanation to one thing I would call an inconsistency. But, you don't learn anything new, what you didn't know, so. Anyway, so that wraps up my thoughts on all of Darkness Within. If you haven't read it yet and still watch this video, go read it. It's still great. I have not spoiled everything. It's a wonderful book. Those were just some of the highlights for me. Like, the best points, probably, like, some of the things I didn't like, that kind of thing. It wasn't, so much, it wasn't everything. So, Read it. It's really, really good. This arc has been amazing so far, and I hope you enjoyed me drawing this piece with the little quartet that go on the journey. I loved it so much. It was my favorite moment. And this is going to be a tradition I have, I think, for any time I review a Warrior Cat book, I'm going to do a little piece like this of my favorite moment from the book. So anyway, so I look forward to that, and I'll see you guys next time. There's a book to review. I'll have more content out soon, and I'll be doing I'll be doing these for mini books in between, but I definitely review the next Warriors book that comes out, which is A Place of No Stars. I'll see you guys later. Bye!